body other than the face itself.
There are, in fact, 4 different types of, what we think of as Sasquatch or Bigfoot.
Very wide, pronounced nose. There was also a very ominous odor.
Phase 1 is to identify opportunities. I walked into a small clearing in less than 10-15 feet away from this enormous creature, and it scared the living hell out of me. Phase 2 is conducting investigations both of witnesses and locations. The size of the thing, it was 4 or 5 feet across the shoulders. Phase 3 is profiling research areas, what's there, how they move, feeding, things like that. About 8 feet tall, I guessed around 800 pounds. It was massive. I had no idea that anything like that existed. Phase 4 is create an intercept plan. I decided to shoot in the air to see if maybe it would scare it off. Phase 5 is the intercept and resolve the issue phase. It didn't do anything, didn't react, and then I heard a noise from my right rear, and from out behind some brush come another one and walked over by the first one. That's when I decided to do what the dog did. I took off running. Welcome to Witness of the Unknown. I'm speaking with Aaron today. Aaron, how are you?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
I'm good. This is my relaxing time of the day, so... Well, I'm just going to give you the microphone, so to speak, and, tell me what happened.
Okay, this was in October, mid-October, about 6 years ago. Me and 2 friends of mine, we don't really get to go hunting very much, but we all made an agreement that year that we wanted to go deer hunting. And so we don't have the money for any sort of like private hunting lease or anything like that, so we started researching on the internet like public land and state parks and stuff like that you can hunt at for free. And so we're not far from this really, really dense forest called the Big Thicket, which is, about 30-minute drive east of Sour Lake, Texas. And we decided to look on Google Earth to find a pretty remote place we could go check out. And our plan was to find a spot and go out and camp and see if we found any signs of deer or hogs or anything like that. So we found a place in the Big Thicket where this one road goes back probably 5 or 6 miles, this little dirt road into the middle of nowhere. And we're like, well, man, there's got to be critters out there. You know what I mean? So let's go make a little one-night camping trip out there and see if we see anything. And so we decided to. And we drove out there, and it's probably a good hour-and-a-half drive from where I live. And so we find the dirt road. We get all the way out there, and we find this dirt road. This dirt road is only wide enough for, like, one pickup truck to go down at a time. So we start heading down this dirt road. We know it's going to take us a few minutes to get all the way to the end because it just dead ends in the middle of this section of the Big Thicket. And we get off the main road, we turn down the dirt road, and we start going a little ways, and then on the right-hand side, we see a tree. It's probably, like the trunk of the tree is probably no bigger than a grapefruit or something, about that big around. And but it snapped about 7 foot up from the ground, and the top of it, with all the limbs and all the leaves and everything, was laying across the dirt road, and we couldn't pass it. So I got out of the truck and grabbed the machete, and I chopped it down, and I was thinking, hey, we're going to need firewood for tonight, so I grabbed a piece of rope and tied it to the trailer hitch and tied it to the tree, and I was like, screw it, we'll just drag this thing all the way to the end, and, we'll make firewood out of it. And we went down a little ways further, and there's another tree, the same thing, but this time it's on the opposite side of the road, on the driver's side of the truck. So I get out of the truck again, I chop this thing down, I tie it to the back of the truck, and we're just dragging a couple of half trees down the road. And then we hit a third one, and then we hit a fourth one. And after repeating this process, and we had 4 trees tied to the back of the truck, I had to repeat this process probably 7 or 8 times. It's like the road was blocked almost every so often. So finally we get to the very end of this road. We find a little clearing that's maybe 20, 30 feet off the dirt road from where we parked the truck. And so we set up camp. And we decided to go kind of, it's still daylight. I'd say it's probably 4 or 5 in the afternoon by this time. And we had set up our camp, and we decided to go walk around and look and see if there's anything. We're looking for signs of deer or hogs or anything. And we didn't really see much. And so we decided to say, screw it. The sun's going to go down the next hour and a half. So we'll just go chill at the camp. It's just guys camping, and we all have little one-person tents, and we dug a little fire pit and stuff. And we decided, screw it, we'll just hang out for the night and, cook some sausages and pork chops or whatever over an open fire and hang out, and we'll try and take a look in the morning when we got more time. And so, yeah, we're just, hanging out, drinking a couple of beers, and got some sausages on a stick, and, your stereotypical just out in the woods and literally in the middle of nowhere. Like where we were on Google Earth, for like 5 or 6 miles in any direction you would point, there's nothing but woods. I mean, we're out there a good ways. And so this all starts probably about 9, 10 at night, right when we're all like, all right, we're thinking about going to bed so we can get an early start in the morning. And we hear a whoop. This weird whooping sound. And it's pretty far away. It's pretty distant. You know what I mean? And so we all kind of stop, and we're like, what is that? Like, it's not a bear. It's not a jaguar or a cougar. Or we just didn't know what it was. And so we sat there and, kind of slipped our minds after a few minutes, and we heard it again. But it sounded like it was a little bit closer. It wasn't like way out in the distance. And so one of my friends asked me, he's like, hey, we actually made the joke, like, well, what if that's a Bigfoot? You know what I mean? And so I whoop back, right? And then it whoops back. And so that's when we're starting to be like, okay, so this is weird. I hope this isn't some, backwoods hobo that's just decided to come mess with us. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so the whole time we're not realizing, like, we're cooking food over the fire. We got this little baby portable speaker going, listening to some music, can't really get too loud and stuff like that. And we're just hanging out. And so, I don't know, a good, that the whooping coming back after I whooped back kind of woke us up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're hanging out and talking and this, that, and the other. And then we hear footsteps. Okay, so out here in the Big Thicket, there is tons of pine needles and leaves just all over the ground. So you would know if you heard something walking up, you know what a deer sounds like walking on 4 feet, or what a hog would sound like. You know what I mean? You hear the footfall on the leaves and the needles and stuff. Well, this is not on 4 legs. And you would know, like, if one of your friends walked off to go, like, pee behind a tree or something, and him walking back, you would know it was him. And this is big, heavy footsteps. This is choo, 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 and it's coming from a little bayou that was probably 200 yards away from where our little campsite is. Okay? And so, all of our attentions got sprung, and so we're looking in the direction that these footsteps are coming from. And now mind you, I'm kind of a big guy. I'm 6'5". I'm like 260 pounds. And so I'm clearly bigger than my 2 friends. And we're sitting in our chairs, and we hear these footsteps coming, and it just keeps getting closer, keeps getting closer. Now, there's the Big Thicket is so thick and dense, you can't see more than, I'd say, 30 foot. You're just going to lose whatever in bushes or shrubs and trees, and you know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so it gets, to my best guess, it gets just to where we can't see what is making these footsteps. It's just like just at that precipice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it stops. I'd say it was probably 40 to 50 feet from our fire, from our chairs and, you know, our tents and stuff. And it stops. And we all just shut up. And we're sitting, we're looking in this direction where the sound is coming from. And then it starts walking around the camp. It walks to our right. It starts walking clockwise from where our camp is. And it's just... And one of my friends, he yells, he's like, "Hey, who's there?" Because we're all, you know, we hadn't really said much to each other, but we're all kind of under the impression, like, this is something walking upright. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This is something on 2 feet. And it stops. And so, and mind you, all three of us have firearms on us. I had a .45 pistol. My other friend had a 9mm pistol. And then my other friend had a shotgun. And when he yelled at it, it stops. And we all got real quiet. There were no more footsteps. And then all of a sudden, we heard kind of like a big limb break, like a, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so we all immediately stood up and are looking in this direction. And I had my .45 in a holster on my waist. And I pulled it out. And I racked it. And anytime somebody, you know, racks a gun, that's an international language.
Right.
Right? And so they were like, my two friends were like, Aaron, shoot at it. You know, scare it off, whatever it is. And so when I stood up, the footsteps started again, and it kept walking counterclockwise. And there just happened to be this one little clearing that you can see through. It was no wider than 4 foot across between some bushes and some trees and some other stuff. And right when I stood up, I pointed my gun in that direction, and I yelled. I said, "If you're a fucking person, you better say something, or I'm about to shoot you." And right when I pointed my gun, you know, we've got our flashlights. This is like 10, 11 at night. We got our flashlights pointed in that direction. We can't see nothing. And right when I pointed my gun in that direction, I saw it. It stepped out from behind this tree with one step, and it looked like it probably stepped a good 7, 8 foot with one stride. Like it was one step, and then the other foot left, and it was behind these bushes. I will never forget what I saw. And this thing, I remind you, I am 6'5", and if I was standing next to this thing, like shoulder to shoulder, the top of my head would have been just above its elbow.
Wow!
This thing was huge. I estimate like over 8 foot. This thing was huge, and it was dark brown. You could see the fur, like matted, coming off of its forearms, like really matted fur, like you see on a yak or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we could smell this thing, and this thing smelled like skunk, like a dead skunk, and body odor. And it was so pungent, like it kind of grossed you out, even though it was that far away. You know what I mean? And it stepped across. And I immediately crouched down, and I was like, there it is. And I'm telling my friends I saw it because they were still sitting down in their chairs. And so we're trying to shine our flashlights over in that direction, and there was a big old huge oak tree that it stepped behind. This oak tree had to be 3 to 4 feet across when you're looking at it. And it got behind this oak tree, and I yelled at it again. I said, if you're a person, like, I didn't know what I was seeing, man. Like, maybe this is an 8 foot tall hobo. I don't know. I've never seen one before.
You never know, right?
Exactly. And so I yelled at it again. I was like, you better say something. And it crouched down. This thing was so wide, shoulder to shoulder. It crouched down behind this tree that was like 3 to 4 feet across, and it put it, like, crouched down like a catcher. You know what I mean? And it put its 2 hands on the side of the tree. And you could still see the outline of its shoulders and its elbows with all the matted fur hanging off of it. And so one of my buddies was like, "Here, shoot it, scare it away," because I hadn't shot yet. So finally, I ripped off 4 rounds square at this tree. I was knowing I wasn't going to hit it because it was behind this tree. And I was like, man, this thing's got to run away if I shoot at this thing. You know what I mean? And I wrapped off like 4 or 5 rounds at this tree. And, you know, the flash of the muzzle and everything and the loud sounds, we didn't have earplugs. And we stood there for a minute. And then all we heard was a real deep, like, growl. Like, I can't even imitate this growl. Like, it was a growl like rattle your chest kind of thing. And, you know, we're all looking at each other like, oh, my God, what is going on? And so I told Stanley, one of my other friends that had the shotgun, I was like, fire that shotgun. That thing is going to be hellaciously loud. And he stands up and he racks it and he yells again because this thing was walking upright.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And he yells at it. He's like, say something, say something. And there was no sound, no growl, no nothing. He shot 1 round at this tree, and then it was totally silent. And we stood there like stunned. You know what I mean? We can't really see too much, but we can still smell the smell. And so we literally stood there staring at this tree for a good 10 to 15 minutes, like not sitting down, not nothing, just staring in this direction. And so finally we're like, yo, what if we shot this thing? What if there's something dead over there? What if it's a dead person over there? And so it literally took us 20 to 30 minutes to gather up the courage to walk over there to this tree. We finally walk over there. We get to the tree. I had shot the tree. Stanley had shot the tree. But there's nothing. And if we heard this thing walk in, and if it got scared and run off, we would have heard it crashing through the thicket. You know what I mean? Taking off.
Right.
But we didn't hear anything like that. And so we're looking around, and we're standing by this tree. It's got bullet holes all in it, and we're shining our flashlights in all directions, trying to figure out what's going on. But there's nothing there, Will. We could see big O impressions into the ground to where it had walked through to get to this tree. And these impressions in the ground, it's not really a footprint. It just pushed all the needles and leaves down where it stepped.
Sure.
But the thing had to be like 20 inches or more. And so we're like, oh, my God, no one's going to believe this. Like, we finally, like, calmed down, like, okay, whatever it is gone. But the thing is we can still smell it. We still smell this really bad, like, body odor and skunk smell.
So it's still close
by. But there's nothing there. So we walk back over to our chairs and our little fire that we dug in the ground where our tents are and stuff. And so the funny part is we were all sitting in a circle around the fire before this happened. So now we move our chairs to the back side of the fire, all facing in that direction, right? So we're sitting there, nothing's going on. Every once in a while I would pick up a stick, throw it kind of in that direction to see if something would happen. Nothing's happening. Like a good hour's gone by. You know, we're talking about it. We're like, man, that's crazy. I was like, did y'all see that thing? And only one of my friends had seen what I saw, but he only saw the tail end of it stepping behind this tree. He's like, I saw a leg or something. I was like, no, I saw this thing. And so we're talking about it, dude. We're like, man, no one's going to believe us. You know what I mean? There's no way anyone's going to believe what just happened to us when we go back home and tell our other friends and stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so we're finally calming down and this, that, and the other. And we're like, okay, well, you know, it dawns on us like, well, the smell is still here. Like, how is that possible if it's gone? So we're like, okay, well, since nothing's really going on, let's go look around again over there by the tree. What if we did shoot it, and what if it's injured? We should look for some blood or something. You know what I mean? Like you shoot a deer that runs off, see if there's a blood trail or something.
Right.
And so we walk back over to this tree, and there's nothing. We don't see any blood on the ground or shine our flashlights on the ground. And we're trying to make a lot of noise. Like, we're talking loud. We're not whispering. You know, if that thing's still there, we kind of want to scare it off. And we don't find anything. So we're like, okay, well, let's walk back to the truck, because I told them I'm going back to the truck just in case this thing is still around. I'm going to grab another box of bullets that I have out of the truck, and I'm put it back in my magazine for my gun. So we pass up our campsite, we walk back over to the truck, and we can still smell this smell. We're a good, like, 75 to 100 foot away from this tree. We're back on the dirt road where the truck is. And so Michael's like, well, hey, let's walk down the road to see if we smell that smell down the road. What if it's just a dead skunk or something down the road? Or let's walk down the road a little ways, maybe about 50 yards, 100 yards. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. We've got guns. We'll be okay, right? So we go just randomly walking down the road a little ways and decide we're going to see if we can still smell this smell. And we get down probably a good 30, 40, 50 yards, and the smell's gone. And so we're like, okay, whatever's making that smell has got to be closer to the camp. You know what I mean? We were probably away from the camp for 30 minutes maximum. And then we come walking back. We get back to the campsite. Our ice chest, we had all of our drinks and our sandwich meat, and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Our ice chest had been tumped over, and the lid was off of it. All of our stuff's on the ground. All the ice is on the ground. The little pan that we had used to cook this food over the fire was kind of tossed away from the fire pit from where it was sitting. But the thing is nothing was taken.
Huh.
Like there was a Ziploc bag with lunch meat, like sandwich meat in it. It was open, but nothing was taken out of it. Our drinks weren't taken. The bread wasn't open. And we're like, what is going on? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so we pick our stuff up the best we can, and, you know, we put it back in the ice chest, and we're sitting there, and we still have our chairs lined up in the direction of that tree, of where, kind of in the general direction of where I saw this thing and where we shot at it. And we're sitting there, and we're talking, and the smell is still kind of there, but it's not as pungent as it was when this happened. And so, you know, we're talking, and I'm like, man, I'm not falling asleep tonight. I know that much. And, you know, we're like, man, no one's going to believe us, and I wonder if we can call somebody, or should we call like a park ranger, because this is a state forest preserve kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, man, we might try and call some people in the morning. You know, maybe we did hit it. We don't know it. We can find some blood or something in the morning, or just to see what we can see. And I was telling him, like, man, after what I just saw, like, no joke, I'm not going to sleep. And we're just sitting there talking about it. It's probably been a good hour and a half since we shot at the thing. It's pretty late at night. You know, it's probably midnight or so. And we're sitting there talking, still have our chairs faced at this tree, and we hear the footsteps again. But the thing is, it's 180 degrees behind us. Like it's coming from where the truck is. And it keeps walking up on us from behind. And so I just told my friends, I said, on 3, we are going to stand up, turn around, and we're all going to shoot our guns in that direction. Don't hit the pickup truck, by the way. Right?
Right.
And so we stand up, and we turn around, we point our guns, and we know we're aiming just to the right of where the truck should be. And that's where those footsteps are coming from again. And I unloaded 12 rounds of 45 in that direction. My friend with the shotgun shot 4 or 5 times. And my friend with the 9mm just unloaded that thing in that general direction. And the footsteps stopped. And I was like, we're going now. We're running over there right now. We grabbed flashlights. I had one more magazine. I jammed it in my gun. And we literally ran in that direction to see if we could find anything. We got all the way to the road to where we're probably like 20 feet behind our truck on the road, and there's nothing. We can see a couple little limbs that I think the shotgun clipped, but there's nothing. Okay? And so at this point, I'm not going to mention any names, but one of us wanted to go home really bad. One of us wanted to leave really bad. And I understood because we were all supremely freaked out. The smell is back, but we can't find anything. So we go back to our campsite, and we line our chairs up back to back to back, sitting in our chairs, waiting to hear this noise again. We don't hear anything. We sit there literally awake probably till 2, 3 in the morning. And it's all quiet. The smell goes away. There's no more footsteps. There's no more whooping or anything like that. And so we sit there, and finally, one of my friends, the guy with the 9mm, he's like, okay, well, if any of us is going to get some sleep, we need to take turns watching. One of us needs to stay awake. And we all agreed upon this. So I said, I'll stay up first. So, mind you, we have these little, one-person tents, right? And they're all kind of in a semicircle around a lower fire pit. So my 2 friends get into their tents, and I'm sitting up just waiting. There's no cell phone service out there. You can't call nobody because you're in the middle of nowhere. And so I'm just sitting by the fire, kind of stoking it, throw a few limbs on there because I don't want it to die down too much. And before I know it, I'm nodding off in my chair. I have no idea how late it is. You know what I mean? It's definitely past 2 in the morning. And I start nodding off in my chair. And so I stand up, and I try and wake up, and I drink a soda. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, well, there's no smell. There's no sounds. I think this is probably just one of the wackiest nights in the woods I've ever had. So I didn't bother to wake up either of my friends. I climbed in my little one-person tent, right? Climb in my tent, I zip it up, and the fire's dying down. And I don't know if I dozed off or if something woke me up, but I opened my eyes. It's still pitch black outside, and the footsteps are coming. The footsteps have come back, and it's walking in, and it's closer than it's been before. And I immediately snapped to reality and realized, whatever this is back. And so I grabbed my gun. I'm laying in a nylon sleeping bag inside of a nylon tent. And when you move inside of a tent or a sleeping bag, it makes that nylon moving sound.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I'm like, I'm not going to make a sound. I'm just going to sit here and hold my gun. And whatever this is, please, please go away. And I'm laying there wide awake. And I know I'm about to make an outlandish claim right now, but this is what happened to us. This thing walked up to my tent. This thing was standing over my tent. And I know it was because it stepped right next to my tent, and I could feel the grass move next to me, underneath my body. I can smell the smell. It's right there. And then I can hear it. It's so close, Will, I can hear it breathing. Okay? And I'm pretty sure it crept down, kneeled down next to my tent, and the top of my tent just kind of like a light breeze blows through and moves your tent. It's that close. I think it's breathing over the top of me. And I am not moving a muscle. I have never been this scared in my life, ever. And I'm just laying there looking at the top of my tent, moving ever so slightly. And it starts making this little grunt sound. Well, not a little grunt sound, but it starts making this grunt sound, kind of but much deeper,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what is going on? And I think what it's doing is trying to see if we're asleep. You know what I mean?
Probably.
And it stands up. It stands back up because I hear the breathing, and I hear it making these noises. But it was so close the first time that it stands up, and I can still hear it breathing, and it starts walking around in our campsite, in between my tent and one of my friends' tents. And it walks over to the ice chest, which was tumped over earlier. And all I hear is the ice chest fall over and all the stuff pour out of it. I can't see out of my tent. There's no little windows or whatever. And so this time it has walked around. Beforehand it was standing. I was laying on my left side. And when I saw my tent moving, I'm pretty sure it was square in front of me. But it had walked around to the back side. And I'm not going to roll over. And I'm sitting there thinking, if I move, what if whatever this is freaks out? If I shoot, what if I only wound this thing?
Could be right on you.
And just, yeah, it's supremely pissed off. You know what I mean? So I'm laying there. Unbeknownst to me, both of my other friends in their tents right next to me are wide awake, listening to the same thing, thinking the same thing, and none of us are moving an inch. We're just laying there. And it probably stayed next to us. Well, it seemed like an eternity. But my best guess, after thinking about all this and running through everything in my mind again, it probably only stayed there for 30 to 45 minutes. It walked around the camp. I'm pretty sure it walked over to where the truck was, because there was smudges along the side of the truck, and I could hear something hitting the truck. And it wasn't a windy night.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like limbs or anything were hitting the truck. And then it walked back over to the camp, and the fire had already died down so much, it was just embers and coals. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it literally stayed around us for, I would say, 30 to 45 minutes. And the only sort of windows I have out of my little tent is that little mesh stuff, but it's down by my feet, right? And I can barely see out of the tent. I can kind of see some sticks and some branches and stuff like that, but it stayed there till just before, when the sun is about to come up and the black sky just starts turning blue, and it starts to lighten up a little bit. It stayed around just to where you could kind of see a tint of blue in the sky instead of black. And then it walked out of the camp in the same direction that it came from. And just kept going and kept going and kept going. And in the morning, I got up, I would say like an hour later, when I didn't hear any footsteps, I didn't smell any smells. I unzipped my tent, and I'm looking around outside and got my gun in my hand. The ice chest is tumped over again. And I got out of my tent, and I was like, yo, are y'all awake? And then they're like, yeah, we're awake, And I was like, what did you hear? What did you hear? We're like comparing notes, like if I was having an acid flashback or something, man. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we all heard the same thing then. And my friend with the shotgun, he was like, it brushed up against my tent. I swear to God, it brushed up against my tent. And we got out of our tents, and we're looking around. The ice chest is tumped over, and get our flashlights out. And I was like, well, whatever it is, it's gone. So I was like, I'm literally going to stay here until the sun comes up, till we can see some stuff, to see if we can find anything. You know what I mean? Right. And in the morning, the sun comes up. We stayed up another 2-3 hours. I'd say another 2 hours. The sun had come up to where we can really start seeing. And, we had camps not on dirt or anything like that. It was all grass and needles and dead leaves and stuff. And we could see kind of where it had come in, and it dawned on me. I was like, I think it went over to the truck. And then we ran over to the truck, and we could see some muddy, like, smudges along the bed of the truck above the rear wheel on the driver's side. And we were just talking about it. We're like, man, there's no way anybody's going to believe us. Like, that is the scariest thing that has ever happened to us. And we talked about it literally the whole hour and a half drive home. You know what I mean? About what had happened to us.
Wow.
By far, Mr. Will, the craziest thing that's ever happened to me, sir.
That's a night. I think I've gone through something similar to that, but I wasn't armed and we didn't shoot, because we weren't armed. But that's anybody goes through any experience like that, it's definitely a harrowing one. Yeah.
And the thing is I'm a security professional, right? I've worked in the Texas prison system. I've worked in jails. I've been an armed personal bodyguard. Like, when you go through stuff like that, they train you to not be scared of people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And especially when you have a gun on you. But the thing is this was not a person. Mm-hmm. This was far too big to be a person. And it was not scared of us.
Apparently
Even
not.
when we shot at it, it was not scared of us. And it took us, I don't know, a couple of weeks of back and forth between me and my two friends talking about this till we started realizing some things. Like, okay, yeah, me and him saw it because you weren't in the right position to see it. But we shot at it. We ran over there. We could still smell it, but there was nothing there, and we didn't hear it run off. And then it dawned on us, well, what if the thing climbed that tree?
I was just going to mention that.
And we didn't even think about looking up.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Most
We're like,
people
where's it
wouldn't.
at? Where's it at? Exactly. And then if it did climb the tree, we would have heard it climb down.
Maybe.
And we didn't.
Maybe. Or
Maybe, yeah.
Or there were multiple individuals there.
Exactly. I think what it was there was another one there. That's the one that walked up behind us. Because what we did is we stood up, turned around, and shot all in that direction, and then ran over there. I think that's when the first one climbed down and got out of the way. Because your adrenaline's rushing, you know what I mean?
Sure. And you're not focusing.
Right. The other one was kind of like distracting us so that the first one could get out of there.
Exactly. Yeah, these things do some strange things, and they're very smart.
Oh, yeah. This thing was not a dumb animal. I think it knew what the guns were.
Absolutely.
And it hid behind a tree big enough to protect itself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And after all this, I mean, it really, like, set into us. You know what I mean? Like, none of us have ever forgotten what has happened. Like, I have not been back to that section of woods in 6 years. I have not gone in there whatsoever. I'm not going to go back in there.
I don't blame you.
If I go hunting again, I'm going to go to somebody's super cleared out hunting ranch. You know what I mean? Where I know there's a person within a shot's distance. You know what I mean?
You're a more controlled situation.
Oh, yeah. But I did some research, like, on the internet, and I tried calling some people, like, within the first week, trying to tell them, like, hey, man, some crazy stuff went on out there. And the research that I found says that, I don't remember who this research was by, but they were saying that they think that there's different types of these things.
Right. Well, I actually brought that information out.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm. And that's from an inside source. I have
no idea. Okay. I read this somewhere on the internet, and what it was saying was like the stuff that happens on the West Coast, like in California and Oregon and Washington, it's so mountainous that these Sasquatch, they kind of have a fight or flight mentality. And in the mountainous areas, these things are more prone to just get out of Dodge because they know they can climb a mountain way faster than a man can. But we're in East Texas. Everything is flat.
Mm-hmm.
And so what makes me think that thing was trying to scare us up out of there. I think that's what the trees were.
Right.
That we cut down on the road. It was like them kind of saying, don't come back here. This is our spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have no idea.
I don't know who wrote that on the internet, but that's that flight or fight stuff. That's kind of nonsense. You're talking about something that's an apex predator, and then privately, I'll tell you some stuff about your area that's different than elsewhere. But
I got you.
When they come in like that, territory, yes, big time territorial. As are all primates are very territorial.
Mm-hmm.
They were probably scoping you out. Had you been there more than one night, could have been very bad.
No, we left the next day. We looked around. We left by 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, smart move. But I'll share some stuff with you privately. That'll hopefully help a little bit.
Now, one of the guys that was with me. Now, we're all outdoorsmen, but we're not like hardcore go every hunting season kind of outdoorsmen. We kind of just, we all have kids and stuff like that. We kind of go when we can. But I gave you a little insight of my background, but the guy with the shotgun, he still goes hunting every year, but he goes to a private lease.
Right.
And he was in the Navy for 6 years. And then my other friend, he was raised in the Boy Scouts and became an Eagle Scout, and he goes hunting every so often, but he goes to a private lease. Mm-hmm. Not any one of us have gone back to the Big Thicket since that happened. And sometimes, friends or coworkers and stuff like that, they're talking about, oh, hunting season's coming, and I'll ask them, where do you go hunting at? Oh, I go here or I go there. And if anybody mentions the Big Thicket, I tell them, like, man, you need to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever go out into the Big Thicket hunting by yourself, ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, I appreciate you telling me. I want to share some stuff with you, like I said, privately.
Yeah, that's fine.
But we'll go ahead and wrap up then, unless you have something else you wanted to mention.
No, man, I just want to say I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to my wacky story, man, because, like I said, I'm not out for fame and fortune. I'm not out to, capture or kill a Bigfoot, but
I don't consider it wacky because this general situation you were in is very similar to one we were in, some buddies and I, when we were about 18. And
oh, wow.
had a night like that with about 4 of these things surrounding the camp, and it was on par with the situation that you just described. And for anybody to go through anything like that, it's extremely frightening.
Oh yeah, it's a game changer. Like I'm not gonna go. Like, I don't care if 5 guys want to come with me and we all have AK-47s. I'm not going in there. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah, I understand. I don't blame you. Well, Aaron, much apprecited. We'll go ahead and wrap up, and I'll proceed.
All right, Mr. Will. I just want to say, hey man, thanks for listening to my story, because I've told some other friends and stuff like that who have no interest in stuff like this, and I'm dead serious about what happened and what I saw, and a lot of people are just in one ear and out the other ear. Oh, it's just some spooky story or something, but
I'll tell you,
it's not a story.
It's very therapeutic when someone talks about what happened to them, because there's many other people who've gone through similar experiences who would never talk about it. And when they listen, I can't tell you how many people have written to me saying, my God, thank you. I experienced that exact same thing or something very similar to that. They think they're alone. And when people describe what happened to them, it really is a big help for other people, who don't have the courage to come forward and say anything.
I understand, because for a while, we did have that doubt, like, if we tell somebody this happened, like, they could think we're crazy, they could think we're lying.
Oh yeah.
But it sure keeps me out of that neck of the woods.
Yeah, I don't blame you. All right, my friend. Well, listen, we will chat again, and I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna send you some stuff. So thanks again for telling me. I really appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Will. Thanks for listening, bro.
All right, Aaron. Well, listen, you have a good night, my friend.
You do the same.
Thanks, everyone, for joining me this week. Be sure to tune in again next week as we explore another account from a witness of the unknown.